Hi, fabulous friends, and welcome back to The Balancing Act. I'm your host, Jamie, and today we're going to go ahead and continue what we worked on last week. So if you missed our previous podcast, definitely check them out. In fact, you might even want to pause this one, go back to the first one, and watch that first, and then come to this one and listen to this one. If not, you can listen to it afterwards. That's fine. We're going to be building upon what we discussed last week. So today we're going to talk about the different areas of a balanced life and how to make your analysis every month in your journey journal a little bit more efficient. And I'm going to show you how to break things down on that balance wheel. And so you're going to want your journey journal, which is a notebook and a pen. And you're going to open up your journey journal to the next page, which is the page right after the strengths and weaknesses. And remember last week, I kind of foreshadowed this conversation with you by telling you, hey, we're going to break these down a little bit next week, but I want you to kind of score them on a scale of 1 to 10, these 8 areas. I want you to score them on a scale of 1 to 10 in your perception of what they are. This is going to change a little bit because we're going to have you write down the same 8 areas, but I'm going to have you add a few more components to those 8 areas. You're going to build upon it. And here's why. Take relationships, for example. Your relationship with your family is probably very different than your relationship with your friends. And your relationship with your friends is probably very different than your relationship with coworkers. And your relationship with coworkers is definitely very different, unless you're working with your partner, than it is with your partner. So this is one example. Last week I had you rate the area of relationships in your life on a scale of 1 to 10. Now I'm asking you to break it down into these different areas and see if there is a difference between that. Because if you look at your balanced life wheel from last week, you might say, oh, my relationships were kind of low. If you rated your relationships low, chances are it's only because of 1 or 2 different types of relationships that are making it low. And that's what's on your mind right now, because we tend to gravitate towards the negative in our life. 1, to maybe fix it. 2, because there's many reasons why we tend to gravitate towards the negative. So if you rated it low, chances are 1 or 2 of those 4 areas that I listed for relationships is probably low, and the other areas might be a lot higher. So give them a good chance to look at what's going on. Now, when you're breaking this down and you're drilling down on these different areas, this is going to help you figure out what you need to work on. Because if your relationship with your family is low, but all of the other relationships are high, then your goal should be working on creating more balance and a higher rating on your relationship with family by next month. So that when you do your balanced life wheel, you have turned that around, and maybe your overall relationship area will be rated higher. So on your journey journal, go ahead and open up your journey journal, and I'm going to have you write down the 8 areas that we discussed last week. I will name them off here, but I'll also list them out down below so that you have access to that as well. So your first area that you're going to be looking at is professional growth. Your second area is going to be your personal growth. Your third area is relationships. And your fourth will be finance. Your fifth is recreation. And your sixth is health. Your seventh is environment. And your eighth is spirituality. As I mentioned last week, you can always change these areas up with something else that you think might fall in line. But when I break this down for you, you might find that it pretty much encompasses everything. And if there isn't, you might find one of those areas that you can add the additional aspect that you wanted to trade out on your balanced life wheel to one of these topic areas. So if you've got your 8 areas written down, great job. And if you don't, go ahead and pause this podcast. Go ahead and look at the description box and write down the 8 areas in your journey journal. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the different areas that you're going to be rating within those 8 areas. My experience working with clients through well, first of all, let me start with the story. Initially, I was trained to do the balanced life wheel, how I explained it to you last week, where you do the 8 areas of life and you just kind of broad stroke those areas in a score of 1 through 10, 1 being very bad and 10 being there's no room for improvement. Like I said last week, very few people will have 9s and 10s. Very few people have 1s and 2s. A lot of us will have things in the middle. And the lower part of the middle is where we're going to be looking at. So that's how I was initially trained to do the Balanced Life Wheel. My training was at Southwest Institute for Healing Arts. Very great college, very great experience there. And I was trained to be a certified hypnotherapist in transpersonal hypnotherapy. And I was trained in clinical hypnotherapy and life coaching. So yeah, I learned a lot there, but it was very broad stroke. And when I started working with clients, I realized how broad stroke it was. So that's when I decided to start delving down in making this balanced life wheel my own, that I work with people and how I can help them to better analyze what's going on. Now, I do want to say, I say this pretty much every podcast, but I am sharing with you coaching tools, but that doesn't mean we have a coaching relationship. We don't have a one-on-one relationship where I'm having a conversation with you and you're giving me feedback and we're feeding off of each other. So this is not advice. This is for educational purposes only. You can choose to use this or you can choose not to use it, whatever works for you. You can even adapt it to whatever you need to adapt it to. Basically, I'm sharing with you a tool that we use in the coaching industry, and you can choose to use it however you see fit. But just know I'm not coaching you. I'm not giving you advice. This is for educational purposes only. All right, so now we're going to break down the areas. So on professional, right, A, work, and B, career. I'll go over those with you in a little bit to talk to you about what those look like. Under personal growth, there's nothing that you need to add there. Personal growth is going to stay the same. Relationships, you're going to write A, family, B, work, C, partner or spouse, and D, friends. Now, under work, you can also write interpersonal, however you choose. Under 4, finance, you're going to write A, income, and B, retirement. Under recreation, you're going to write A, personal hobbies, and B, family fun. Under health, you're going to write A, sleep, B, physical, C, relaxation, D, exercise and diet. Under environment, you're going to write A, home, B, work, C, social, and D, online. And under spirituality, you're going to write A, religion, B, spiritual growth, and C, volunteer. Now, you can pause this video now or this podcast now, and you can go ahead and rate those on a scale of 1 to 10, each of those areas, or we can just listen to the rest of the podcast and you can do it afterwards. Completely up to you. But the biggest thing is to analyze these areas. So under professional, for example, I already talked about relationships, but let's talk about professional. This means if you are in a career that you want to retire from, then that's your career. But if you are just working a job that's going to help you get to the career that you want to retire from, that is your job. That's work. So you want to separate the two out. And sometimes you may be working on a job that is going to help you get to the career you want to retire on, but the career you're going to college for. So you've got those two areas. So that's kind of how you want to break that up. How is your work? How is your career? Sometimes you are working a job that's going to help you get to the career you want to go to, but you're not getting anywhere on getting towards the career you want to retire from. So then that would be low in your career area and your work would be low because it's not helping you move in the direction that you want to move to. Under personal growth, that's what you're doing right now. Listening to this podcast is a personal growth step. Anything that you need to do that's going to help you grow personally, if you're doing meditation or relaxation or mindfulness, any of that. But personal growth just falls under one umbrella. That's you bettering yourself or you making some growth in your life personally, whatever that might be. As far as relationships go, we talked about family, work, partner, and friends. And really, it is just about analyzing which ones are high, which ones are low, and kind of drilling down as to why. In finance, we've got income and retirement. So here's where you have the income that's coming in that's paying your bills. That's your income. And then what are you doing for retirement? Do you have a retirement? Are you saving for something? Do you have a 401k? Are you doing CDs? Are you doing IRAs? What's your retirement look like? Are you even working on retirement? So breaking it down that way will help you to better understand if there's an area that you need to work on within finance. In recreation, we're talking about personal hobbies. That's what you enjoy doing on your own. Everybody needs a little me time, so a personal hobby is important. Also, recreation means, having family fun, doing things with your family, taking a trip, something like that. So it's really about those two areas. How are you doing at doing stuff with your family for recreation time? And how are you doing at doing stuff for yourself for recreation time? Write those and score those. Under health, sleep is super important. Every expert will tell you sleep is one of the most important things that you can do to help with your health. And so, how is your sleep? On a scale of 1 to 10. If it's low, then what's causing that? Kind of break it down and get an idea of what's going on. But just right now you're scoring these areas. And then you have physical. How are you physically? How do you feel physically? Are you feeling healthy? Do you feel like you're not feeling healthy? Maybe you're in a general malaise stage where you're just feeling just not feeling good. What's going on with you physically? Then you want to ask yourself, how are you doing with relaxation? Relaxation is just as important as sleep. Relaxation is something that you want to focus in on and have. This could be mindfulness, it could be meditation, it could be Tai Chi, it could be whatever you're doing to relax, yoga. My mind went blank there for a second, but yoga, it could be yoga. And then D is exercise and diet. So how is your exercising and your diet? Now, unless you're under medical care and the doctor is saying that you shouldn't be exercising, you shouldn't be doing this. Of course, I'm not your doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. You want to talk to your doctor about your diet and exercise and make sure that you talk to them. But if your diet and exercise if you're feeling it's kind of low, maybe it is time to talk to your doctor about what can I do to get my diet and exercise in line. If you're feeling good about your diet and exercise and you've talked to your doctor about that, then that's great. Then you might want to score that area high. So just as we're continuing through, remember you're scoring on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, it's really bad, and 10 being there's no room for improvement. Next is environment. You're going to want to score your home environment. How is your home environment? How are things going at home with your environment, what you surround yourself with? Decluttering is super important. Is everything really cluttered? Is it causing chaos in your life? Are you having struggles with, your home environment for whatever reason? Maybe that might be an area that you want to work on. And next, under environment, you want to look at your work environment. How is your work environment going? This could mean about cluttered and your office may be in chaos, or maybe it could be just what's going on with your environment at work as a whole. How does it feel? Is it feeling hostile, or are you feeling that you have a good work environment? Is the best place to work environment? What's going on at work, and how is that work environment? Next is your social environment. So how are things going when you are socially involved with your social circle? What's going on in your social environment? Is it healthy or does it need improvement? And then I added online just recently, probably in the last 3 to 5 years, I've added online to this because really we spend a lot of time online. So that is another environment that we live in. We immerse ourselves in that. So how is your online environment? And rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. And finally, we're going to look at spirituality. And spirituality, you're breaking it down to religion. That is, not everybody's going to have this. Not everybody is religious. So if you're religious, then how is your religion? How are you feeling about your religion? If you are on a spiritual path of growth and development, how are you doing on that on a scale of 1 to 10? And how are you doing about giving back, like volunteering? And those are the kind of questions that you're going to ask yourself. Once you have scored these areas on a scale of 1 to 10, compare them to your balanced life wheel that you did last week. And if you didn't do it, that's fine. You can go back and do it after this video. I will link up the playlist down below so that you can get caught up. And so what you want to do is look at how you scored yourself on your balanced life wheel. Now, if you were being honest with yourself, you probably scored yourself low in some of the areas that sub areas on this that you scored yourself low in a whole area on your balanced life wheel. Now break that down. Start another page in your journey journal and ask yourself, what are the 3 areas that you can make the most impact this week? Today, what are the 3 areas you can make the most impact in your life? And ask yourself, what are the 3 areas that are going smooth and you don't want to change a thing? Put those on your journey journal and make sure that they're recorded in your journey journal. You're going to notice that those 3 areas that you don't want to change a thing are going to change as you continue to work on these areas in your life. You're also going to notice that the 3 areas that you can make the most impact in are also going to change because you're going to start working on them. You just doing this activity have put a focus and zeroed in on something that needs improvement. The fact that you're listening to this podcast means you want to make some improvement or changes in your life, which means that you are undoubtedly going to make improvement without doing much of anything, law of attraction. Just putting some energy towards thinking these are the areas I need to improve, it's going to cause you to focus in on them even subconsciously. So that'll help. But the challenge is not just to focus on them subconsciously. You also want to focus on them individually. Once you've written down 3 areas that you need improvement or that are going to give you the biggest impact, and what areas on your balanced life wheel that they're going to impact, because some may impact more than one area. And you've written down the 3 areas that you want to just keep smooth sailing. This is your point, your balance. And you don't want to mess with those areas. So you want to keep those as just keep going as they're going. Whatever you change now, you don't want to change those 3 areas to get the biggest impact on the 3 areas that need the improvement. So pick the 3 areas that need the improvement, and then pick one thing you can do each day to better yourself for the next week in those 3 areas. So in area 1, what is one thing you can do to make this area better every day for the next week? Area 2, what is one thing you can do every day to make this area better for the next week? And area 3, what is the one thing you can do in this area that can make this area better every day? You can do this one thing every day for the next week. Put that down on your journey journal and then put it in your calendar. Make sure that those are the 3 things you focus in on, as well as everything else you've got on your plate. And let's talk about how that made an impact on things at the end of the week. So that is the end of today's podcast. Short and sweet, really. I didn't want to go too long. Well, I do sometimes go a little long. I do want to try to keep these shorter and these podcasts a little bit less on your time, but when we have important topics like this, I do need to take a little time to explain everything to you more in detail. Take the time to do the 2 pages that we talked about, actually 3 pages that we talked about in your journey journal, and I will post another podcast on Thursday. So definitely make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and you're subscribed to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And I'll be back next Thursday to talk a little bit more about designing your desired future and creating a happy and balanced life on the Balancing Act. I'm Jamie. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye.